everyone to the Breakthrough series, where we take a look at successful entrepreneurs that have had many breakthrough moments, and we get the privilege of looking at their individual lives and getting great lessons from them and learning things that could be applicable to our life. And today we're joined with Taylor Colin.
Yep,
Sorry.
that's okay.
And Taylor is one of the highest producing realtors in Ohio. I mean, in Ohio there's, if I'm not mistaken, over 8,000 realtors.
Yeah, Central Ohio.
Central Ohio.
Yep.
And to be at one of the top, to be one of the people at the top is something that needs to be looked at and learned after. So, Taylor, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, Timothy. I'm excited to hopefully share some of my successes and insight for anyone who's watching or listening.
Awesome. So, before we get a little bit into what you do, can you share a little bit about yourself and how you got started into real estate?
I don't know how long your podcast is here, but it's quite a long story. I guess, the Cliff Notes version. I grew up in Michigan, in a suburb outside Detroit. In growing up, the path to adulthood is it was a set path, right? You go to college. After college, you go get a degree, and you go get a job, and then you retire, and that's kind of your life, right? And so I went to college to Central Michigan University, and then I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I guess sales was going to be a natural fit for me. So I traveled the country a little bit, tried to use my degree to a career that suited my degree, I should say, and then found myself in sales for probably about 8 years. I used to work for Worthington Industries, and then just got really burned out of the whole corporate atmosphere and maybe the politics of a corporate career. And then just kind of naturally shifted over into real estate, and that's kind of, I guess, the Cliff Notes version. Mm-hmm. And there's been several successes and failures along the way, and life lessons and things like that. But I'm certainly glad that it's led me to where I'm at right now. I think it's a great career and a lot of flexibility, a lot of creativity, and kind of write your own journey.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned you're from Michigan, and I'll have you explain how you got to Columbus in the first place. But growing up, did you have like a dream of something you wanted to be? Because you mentioned in Michigan, there's a set path. You go to college, you do this. But I'm sure you had something that you really wanted to do growing up, or is it you never really thought about it?
Yeah, I never really thought about it. Really, it was just kind of like, I guess, the thing to do, right? You graduate high school and all your friends are going to college, so you're like, okay, I guess I should go to college, right? Mm-hmm. And then you graduate college, and then you're like, okay, go get a job, right? And I was going through college, and I still never really figured out what I wanted to do. And like I said, it was kind of default sales, because that's just, I was good at talking to people. I enjoyed people, and I felt like I could understand people. So I figured that would be the most natural fit. But I hope that answers your question. I almost, to this day, I don't even know like if this is it, or if it's the next thing or whatever. It's just what I'm trying to do and enjoying my life and where I'm currently at.
It's more like what's the next right step to take? Not necessarily knowing what you have to do in the future, but just what's the next right step to take? Yeah,
I guess in real estate's made me realize that, I guess the career I'm in right now has made me realize that there's no limits. There's no limits, there's no path. And just because there's no path, that's completely fine, because you're just writing your own path, so to speak, instead of trying to live someone else's path.
Mm-hmm. So how do you think, because you mentioned you were in sales, and you briefly mentioned that wasn't right for you. You moved out of that. What exactly in sales, or specifically, I guess, working for other people, did not sit right with you? Was it the authority over you? Was it not enough potential to make money? What was it? The freedom?
Well, what I started to learn in working for a corporation, and I'm not by any means like saying don't work for a corporation, right? Everyone has their own thing, right?
Everybody's different.
Right, and there's certain securities within working for a corporation or a business structure that is beneficial, like, a retirement, or, security, or knowing that paycheck is coming in, or hitting a sales quota, or whatever that is. There's value in that. For me, particularly, I really started to assess my my wage with my value. And so in other words, if I'm exceeding my value, I need to be exceeding my value as far as a compensation is concerned, because if the company is paying me more than my value, then the company is losing money. And so I'm always getting paid under my value, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, because you always felt like you were underpaid because you were growing and developing as a person.
Sure, and I'm growing, and my wage I didn't see going in the direction that I was going, and so always are undervalued in some respects according to your wage, because once again the company needs to make money. So I just felt like I was always chasing my value, and I'm like, what industry could I get into where no matter what, the moment I wake up in the morning directly equates to my dollar per hour. So in other words, Timothy, like if I wake up at 9 o'clock in the morning, right, and I roll out of bed and I go and turn on the news, or I go and turn on Sports Center, and I really don't start getting active into my day until like 10 or 10:30, well, guess what? I'm going to get paid like as if I'm just getting started going at 10:30. If I wake up at 5 in the morning, I exercise, I read, I do the things that are going to make my mind sharp and my body sharp, and then I get in front of the computer at 8, 8:30 or 9, and I perform to a very high level, I'm going to get paid accordingly in real estate, because it's about the actions that you take during the whole course of the day, not just in between work hours where you get compensated by.
It's very interesting to hear that, because some people, they don't like that. That like scares them away. Especially like popular version of this is commission-based jobs, and so they don't like that because it's like you're indirectly impacting how much you make by how much you put in.
Right.
But you like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's powerful, right? I mean, what other industry, number one, this is why I love real estate. It doesn't take, the capital to get started in your own business in real estate is very, very minimal, right? The returns are significant, and guess what? There's competition out there, and the rule of thumb is 90% of the real estate agents do 10% of the business, and vice versa. So 10% of the real estate agents do 90% of the business, right? So which category am I going to fall into, and how am I going to prepare myself to succeed to be one of the 10 that are doing the 90%?
So before we get into how you got into one of that top 10 or 15%, I wanted to ask what transition happened that like caused you to go into real estate? Because you said you were looking for some kind of industry, but what specifically happened that made you realize real estate's probably the way to go for me in terms of what I want?
So I knew that it wasn't the corporate wasn't a fit for me when I had an opportunity to go take a sales territory position in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I was engaged with my wife, and so it was the first time in my life where I had to make a decision for someone else, or with someone else, I should say. And we decided not to take that position. And kind of in the corporate side of things, they put some pressure on the sales guys to take that leap of faith by saying, well, you may not have another opportunity for a while if you don't take that opportunity. And so I turned it down, and it was just a bad taste in my mouth. And so I started to investigate other ideas with other companies. And then took about a 2-year transition. And then there was another time when another boss and I didn't see eye to eye. And so next thing you know, I actually got fired from the job to no fault of my own, because my boss got fired, and so they fired the entire sales team that he brought on to work on this project. Right?
That's
and so
you're like, I don't want to be in that position ever again.
that was one thought, right? And so then I was always interested in kind of investment real estate. And my
like
wife,
renting out or flipping?
Yeah, whatever that was at the time. And my wife said, why don't you go get your real estate license? So I did, and then started a path of kind of the traditional retail sales, and then that's kind of where I'm at right now, and that was in 2013.
A lot of people growing up today, for them, passive income's popular, and kind of the rewards that come with that, like investment real estate's a big part of passive income. So I assume that's what kind of attracted you to it as well, initially, to real estate?
Yeah, and I mean, like, the most successful people on the planet all have some sort of vested interest in real estate,
That
right?
is true, yeah.
If you name anyone on the planet, either commercial or residential space, they have real estate, equity somewhere. And so I kind of just thought, if that's where everyone else is going, if that's where the most successful people in the world are going, then I guess why not? You know, start to investigate it further. And I got time on my hands, might as well just dive in and go for it.
All right, so you got into real estate, and I guess this is the secret sauce. There's more than one way to skin a cat. What made you stand out from everybody else that helped you get ahead of the thousands of other realtors?
I don't know. Like, and it's kind of funny because I'm trying to define my value proposition right now. Like, you think it's one thing, and then as your business continues to develop, it starts to turn into something else, right? I guess, hard work, you know, and just growth as a person. I think that's the most important thing. I mean, I was that individual that I previously mentioned where I thought success just happens, right? Like it's an easy thing to achieve success, or whatever success even means, I don't even know, right? But the first 3 years of real estate, specifically 2 years, were a struggle because it takes a self-discipline to be able to do the things that are required to be one of the high achieving individuals in real estate, right? I mean, to be able to have the discipline to wake up early when no one's telling you have to be in the doors at 8 o'clock in the morning, right? No one's telling me I have to be in the office at 8 o'clock in the morning. Now it's myself that's telling me this. And then when you look down a path and you see either success or you see failure, which way are you going to go? You get to make a decision as an individual which way you want to go. And so if you want to go down the path of success, then this is what the successful people are doing, and they're waking up early, they're exercising, they're making their body sharp, their mind sharp, and they're going down that successful path. So I don't know if it's necessarily secret sauce or like where your margins should be, what your P&L should look like or whatever, because that's every business has their own sort of secret sauce, right? I think for me and what I have found in our industry, the ones that treat it like a business and really focus on themselves and the growth internally are able to kind of project that out to people, if that makes sense.
Well, by any case, it wasn't privilege or luck.
Yeah.
As this is popular to believe nowadays.
Yeah, and I think so. I think you have to be associating yourselves around the right people. You need to be around people who are going to challenge you. I think that's incredibly important. I mean, when I got into real estate, the very first thing I did was, get office space.
Really?
Yeah, because I want to be around the people who are doing $25 million a year, right? I want to be around the people who are coming in on a daily basis at 8 o'clock because those are the people I need to be like.
So you'd rather put a little bit extra money, not put in your pockets and stay at home and work. You'd rather go somewhere where you're surrounded by
absolutely.
successful individuals.
It's an investment. Everything, you have to look at it as a return, right? And if you're not going to, for me personally, and maybe it's coming from the corporate sales background, I needed to wake up, put on a collared shirt, get into the office, drive into the office, because maybe it's just driving and listening to music or whatever it is, but it's like a transition from home to work, right? If I personally don't have the discipline to be sitting at home and working on my laptop because I would go use the restroom or go grab a bite to eat, and next thing you know, it's an hour, 2 hours, or whatever it is. But if I'm in an atmosphere that is conducive to success and what other people are doing to succeed, I'm going to be more apt to do the same thing that they are if I'm in that environment.
Sometimes it's actually easier to change your environment, and that environment will mold you and force you to do certain things rather than try to push yourself, like brute self-discipline.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of touch on that because you seem like a disciplined person, even though you said you're not in that
Right.
aspect. What kind of things could you share that would be useful for people that want to build up their self-discipline, especially entrepreneurs who so desperately need it? That's like one of the key factors, as you mentioned, of success. Maybe even something small like waking up early. Like, what did you find that worked for you?
So I read a book. One of the big pivotal turning points in my career was I read a book called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, and he's for me it was the morning routine, waking up early, and I was always one when 6:30. The alarm went off at 6:30. I'd hit the snooze bar 2 or 3 times, and just wake up with enough time to get into the door when it was needed, right? And what I found was I was waking up for all the wrong reasons. I was waking up for someone else. I was waking up for a corporation, right? I wasn't waking up for me. And so when I started to figure out ways to wake up earlier, like it started at 6 and it went to 5:30, then it went to 5, right? And by no means do I want to seem like I'm like this robot who every morning wakes up at 5 o'clock and does the exact same thing, right? I have 2 kids, and there's some nights when it's just I need to sleep as long as I can just to get some sleep, or I just don't feel like it, right? But I think the turning point for me came when I was waking up with purpose to read, to write, to exercise, to do something that is going to be beneficial for me.
Specifically in the morning, right?
Yeah. Well, because if it doesn't happen in the morning, Timothy, it doesn't happen, right? Next thing you know, we're going through our day and our time is occupied by everyone else. If it's not family, if it's not work, if it's not friends or something like that, we're always fielding calls, we're responding to text messages, we're on social media, we're on appointments or whatever, right? We're responding to everyone else, and we lose interest in our own growth and our own personal investment. And then in the evenings, some people are night people, and that could be a great time to do it. That's just like, once again, I don't have that discipline. And so I'll find myself watching a game, or I will do some reading in the evenings, but if I don't set aside that time in the morning, then it doesn't happen for me.
I was actually interviewing somebody, like I mentioned before the interview, he owned Trampoline Parks, and he actually mentioned the same thing. He said, I get most of my work done by 11 a.m. in the morning, a couple hours before that, because by that time people start waking up, they start calling you, they start distracting you, and you can't really get real work done. Now you have to give your time to other people, but before that, you spend it on whatever you need to get done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. And that kind of goes into your workday, right? I mean, if you're not doing the hard tasks first, or the tasks that you don't want to do first, you keep pushing them off, then it's the end of the day, and you haven't done the most important thing that you're supposed to do during the course of a day.
Mm-hmm. So, and actually, to anybody that's listening, and you might know this book called The 4-Hour Workweek. It's also pretty good along the lines of what we're just talking about. So, you got your real estate license, you were putting in a lot of hours, a lot of hard work. What kind of challenges did you face? Maybe like a major challenge, maybe something that caused you to have to pivot how you were doing things. You realized that things aren't working the same way as they were before. And that kind of it looked like it was the end or the dead end, but then it kind of changed for the better.
It's a great question. Certainly it's been licensed for 7 years, and it's not like it's been rainbows and butterflies the entire time by any stretch of the imagination. I'm trying to think of one specific example on like a certain challenge, or one thing, if I'm going back and just recently is the whole, stay at home and COVID thing. That was a huge challenge for me and our team. And we kicked off 2019 like gangbusters. We were setting record numbers for January, February, and then middle of March happens, and
2020, you mean?
2020, excuse me, 2020. And then middle of March happens, and I have a 2-year-old and I have a 4-year-old at home, and my wife is working full time too. And we're trying to grow a real estate business and make sure that we're in front of our clients remotely, right? Which is such a challenge to do. And so that was a real tough thing. And to be honest, we didn't know what the back end of coronavirus looked like, and we still don't know what the back end of coronavirus looks like. But we had to figure out ways within our business to get incredibly lean and to cut costs wherever we could. And we ended up cutting $4,000, $4,500 a month off of our P&L, and which is great for us. And we did okay March, April, May, but June, July, August hit, and we're right back at great numbers for our team. And but it was really challenging to be a dad, to be a husband, to be a business owner, all at the same time during the course of a day. And by all at the same time, I mean like 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock was business time, 10 o'clock till 1 o'clock was like family time. Like I'm a teacher, and I have a whole newfound respect for teachers. Holy cow, I already knew that they were undervalued. Now I know they're significantly undervalued. But yeah, I think that was probably a really, really big challenge for us, and it stretched us and got us uncomfortable, and I think we're in a much more leaner position now than we ever were.
Well, if you live through that and your business survives that, it kind of goes to say how you're running it, but also what you can face in the future, and not to get too comfortable.
Yeah, I think I love that word comfort, like, or even uncomfort, right? I don't like, there's certain words that I like success, like, you know, and I kind of put that into the same word as comfort. Like, I don't ever want to feel like success or comfort, because if I feel one of those things, then you're truly not looking at the bigger picture and growing, right? I mean, I feel like it's one of those words that, okay, tell me what success means, and if I tell you from a tangible standpoint, this is what success means, and you get there, you're still not going to feel success.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same with comfort. Like, I don't ever want to feel comfort. I always want to be putting myself in a position where, like, where I need to feel some anxiety about where I'm at or where I'm going, because that leads to growth, and you're putting yourself in a position where you are uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. One thing on the same lines I realized was setting goals is really good, but setting goals is kind of binary. You either get it or you don't. Like, you either meet the number or you don't. And I found that actually working on setting habits or certain directions to go towards is a little better, because it gives you more room for improvement. And later down the road, the goal might be irrelevant by that point,
Right.
but that direction isn't. And so it's kind of an interesting perspective to take on that. So going through COVID, you've learned a lot of things. How many years did you say you were already a realtor?
So I got licensed in 2013,
Okay,
so it's 7 years.
7 years, going on 8 basically.
Yep.
What could you tell somebody that is just getting started, or maybe not even in real estate, but as an entrepreneur by themselves? What kind of advice would you give them? You already mentioned hard work and staying on top of your game.
Yeah.
What else would you recommend?
Action. I think we get so caught up in like
Overcomplicating it?
or just like we get paralyzed because of fear, right? Like you go down, you get to the point where you're supposed to take an action, and a lot of times we don't take an action, or we delay because we think what if, and we go through that laundry list in our head of all these what ifs, right? But in all actuality, you have no idea until you take that step and take that action, right? Like I tell people this a lot. Like, I remember a conversation my wife and I had when we were talking about having a second child, right? She's like, well, you know, it'd probably be the best time to have a second child in 6 months when we're here. I'm like, in 6 months from now, we have no clue where we're going to be. Are we going to be here, or are we going to be somewhere else? When we think we know, we really have no clue. So why don't we just take the action now?
Tomorrow's not guaranteed.
Exactly. And you don't know where you're going to be tomorrow, even if it is guaranteed. So I just say, you got to be taking action. Just go in and do what you love, because, like, I don't know, I certainly didn't waste 8 years when I was in corporate sales, by no means, because I learned, I grew. I mean, a lot of those habits that I was able to establish then, I still take in my real estate practice.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that I wish I would have done it sooner. I wish I would have taken action sooner. And I was fortunate enough, my action was almost forced by getting fired. Mm-hmm. By someone saying, we don't want you at our job anymore, so now I got to figure out what I'm going to do with my life.
It'd
right?
be worse if you didn't get that push and you stayed in that job for 20 years, not being pushed hard enough to get out of it, and then who knows what.
Who knows if I didn't get fired?
Yeah.
I mean, getting fired, which is looked at upon as a failure, turned out to be one of the greatest things that happened to me, and allowed me to get into a career that I'm passionate about, where I can inspire others, where I'm truly a fiduciary to someone else and helping them achieve their goals. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't buy and sell, or I don't help people buy and sell real estate. Like, I help people achieve their housing goals and dreams. I mean, we look at ourselves on my team as home wealth advisors, right? Like, we want them to come to us when they're having questions about improvements, refinancing, whatever that is. If we're just there for them when they're thinking about making a home purchase, that's just a small percentage of it.
Mm-hmm. And actually, this is kind of cliche, but most times cliche things are true. Failure is actually like a stepping stone to whatever is next, because if you don't look at it that way, then like you said, you'll be paralyzed and you won't go anywhere. So you mentioned earlier that growth is important for you. You can't just stop at one point of success and say that's it. So what's next for Taylor? What is next on the line?
Yeah, I mean, we're, there's a couple different things. I am certainly starting to dabble a little bit into investment real estate. we're growing our team. We're looking to bring on, great people that want to be a part of the Pure Equity Group. And there's been a lot of growth. I mean, it's funny because you sit here and we get caught up in the days that we're currently in, and it feels like there's not too much growth, but then when you reflect on the past 3 years and what you've been able to accomplish in the past 3 years, you realize that there's been much more growth than you really, really thought when you're living in little microcosm
Get your
moments.
head out of the sand.
Yeah, right. And I mean, we're setting very aggressive goals. We're looking to continue to grow our team so we can impact more people in the community for their home needs and things like that. And I'm personally looking at diversifying a investment portfolio.
Mm-hmm. What about like what motivates you to move forward? Because at this point, I'm sure you've settled in your family's safe. You have basically everything you want, besides maybe a yacht or something. So like, what's motivating you to move forward now?
It's maybe, to be honest, man, my family and just my kids and my family. I want to make sure that they're in a position where, when they start the ground floor, when they're 18, 20, 22, or whatever it is, they have a great foundation. I want to make sure that I'm growing for our team. I think that that's important. I want my team to be able to start to establish businesses within our business, so they're growing. So I guess I kind of look at it as like a tree in a lot of ways, and what type of legacy are you going to leave? And that's kind of things I think about on a daily basis. Like, what are people going to think of you, in 20, 30, 40 years? Like I talk about my grandfather, right? Mm-hmm. Things like that. And so I think that's kind of important to me, to be able to have people look up and say that I've really impacted a lot of people's lives.
Mm-hmm. So I want to ask two more things.
Okay.
First one is, you mentioned Miracle Morning as a book you really recommend. Do you have any other books you recommend? I think you said you liked to read, right?
Yeah, I like John Maxwell. I think he's...
John Maxwell.
Yeah, he's got like 40, 50 books or something like that.
You have one in particular? I know there's the 5 Steps to Leadership.
Yeah, and I'm probably butchering all the titles. Like there's the 15 Levels of Growth. That's a really good one. We are a big Tim Ferriss. I mean, we
are a big...
Well, no. So Tim Ferriss.
Yeah, the one that wrote For Our Work Week.
For Our Work Week, yep. We follow, the team reads Tribe of Mentors. We pick out someone to follow in Tribe of Mentors every week, and we talk about, what are the lessons that we received out of, and essentially it's just his podcast, like cliff notes of his podcast.
Mm-hmm. They're just like stories of people.
Yep.
Kind of like what this is.
Yeah, he's got Tools of Titans, he's got Tribe of Mentors. I'm trying to think if there's some other, I'm a big follower of Simon Sinek. The Golden Circle, Start With Why. Those are also really good books that I probably will read on a yearly basis.
Nice. All right, and one more thing. So at the end of every episode, we play a little game.
Okay.
The way it works is I'm going to say a word, and you're just going to say the first word or phrase that comes to your mind.
All right.
And try not to repeat it.
So a word or a phrase, so like a sentence or something?
Preferably just a word. That's the best option. But if you can't find a word, then just like a couple words.
All right.
So the first word is family.
Elena, Grant, and Mandy. Does that work?
Yeah. Well, it is. It's your life.
Yeah.
Foundation.
I think it's a key to success. I really do. I could go in deeper if you want me to.
If you want, you can share.
I just think that having a foundation of who you are and the consistency within your day in your life is incredibly important to build upon.
Mm-hmm. Legacy.
What are other people going to think of me in X years? How am I going to be able to impact as many people as possible?
Failure.
It's great. I love it. If you're not failing, you're not growing.
And the last one is money.
Don't be scared of it, because money creates opportunity, and it all depends on how you use it. We had a dinner with a neighbor last night, and I'm going to take this from my own kids. They have older children, 8 and 5, I believe, and they get like small allowances for doing chores. and they have 3 buckets they can put their money in. They can either save it, they can either spend it, or they can either give it, and they get to make the decision on which bucket they want to put it in. I thought that was pretty cool because I think it's really important to be sharing a lot of that money, and it creates opportunity for us to be able to share and do good with it.
That's awesome. Well, Taylor, thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you on here.
Yeah.
A pleasure learning from you, and every time it's something new from different people, and it's really unique hearing how different people are moving towards their idea of success. So I appreciate you taking the time today.
Yeah, no, thank you. I hope people got some insight and learning more about me, and I appreciate you for doing this. I think we need more people out there that are trying to get people's stories out there so we can all learn from high-minded individuals.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Have a nice day.
All right, thanks.